Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil service aspirants. Welcome to another session of Economy Weekly Recap, wherein we are going to take up all the important economy-related articles which have appeared in different newspapers in the last 1 week and analyze these articles. And for this session, this is the list of the articles that we'll be looking at. Now, before we start with the first article, a very important announcement. We at Unacademy, we have launched an online English classroom program wherein India's top educators will be taking classes. Sarmad Sir, myself, Chetan Sir, Abhishek Sir, Mukesh Jha Sir and Hemabindu Ma'am. If you're interested, please give a call on this number and you can also check out the details in the link provided in the descriptive section. And not only this, on the occasion of Holi, we are offering a 50% discount and a 6 months extension as well. Now let me start with the discussion. The first very important article. Supreme Court of India has asked states to provide ration cards to the migrant laborers in the next 2 months. What is the issue all about? Understand the history here. Last year, that is in the year 2023, Supreme Court of India has issued a directive, has issued an order to all the states to provide ration cards to the migrant laborers. Now, reason behind this is the Government of India under National Food Security Act. We implemented National Food Security Act 2013 and under this, we are providing food grains to the identified beneficiaries. We are providing food grains to the identified beneficiaries. Some of these beneficiaries, that is households, will get 35 kgs of food grains per month, of course. And some of these individual beneficiaries will be getting 5 kgs of food grains per person per month under National Food Security Act. The issue has been that for implementation of National Food Security Act, we were supposed to identify who will be a beneficiary. Which household will be identified as a beneficiary, point number 1. And point number 2, how many beneficiaries will be identified in each of the states. So for this, please understand, the earlier planning commission utilized the household consumption survey data. They utilized the household consumption survey data as well as they also utilized the census data of 2011. Census data of 2011 as well as the household consumption survey data, and they decided certain quota would be provided to all the states. Now what do you mean by quota here? For each of the states, what will be the number of beneficiaries who will be identified and who will be provided with food grains under NFSA. So each of the state was decided a certain number of quota and the states were supposed to identify these many beneficiaries and provide food grains to the beneficiaries. So please remember the process here. The center has announced a scheme. The states will be given a quota and the quota was decided by the planning commission based on a certain data set. And based on this quota, the states will have to identify the beneficiaries and provide the food grains to the beneficiaries. Now the issue has been that over a period of time, the population of India has increased, correct? Population of India has increased. And when the population increases and you're still using the census 2011 data to identify and allocate food grains, don't you think we might have missed out a large number of people who are still poor, who have been added over a period of time. Large number of people have been added to the population now. The population numbers are very high, but we are still giving the free food grains, or let's say the food grains under NFSA according to the census population or population census of 2011. So citing this, there was a petition filed in the Supreme Court of India. So Supreme Court of India asked various states to look at all these registrars or all these people who have registered on the eShram portal. Remember this as well. There's a portal by the name of eShram portal. The basic idea of e-Shram portal, which has been established, which has been set up in 2021, is that various migrant labor or people who are working in the unorganized areas, they will be registering on the e-Shram portal. And one of the important objectives of the e-Shram portal is that the social welfare benefits, social welfare schemes will be made available to all this population. So looking at this, the Supreme Court of India issued a directive to all the states, asking all the states to provide ration cards to the migrant labor. Migrant labor is part of unorganized labor, and many of them are registered on the e-Shram portal. So last year, Supreme Court of India issued a directive within certain number of days, please issue the ration cards. In fact, many states stated that, or even Government of India replied to that order saying that we are conducting e-KYC now. Under NFSA, there is a quota requirement, etc., etc. Supreme Court of India has again issued an order in recent times stating that even if quota is decided and if you have reached the quota already, doesn't matter. Please issue them the ration cards. Issue them the ration cards. You might have already reached the quota, doesn't matter. Give them the ration cards. And stating the same thing, Supreme Court of India has ordered that the states might be or should be providing the ration cards to the migrant labor in the next 2 months. And this is important for a simple reason. If you do not have ration cards, understand this, if you do not have ration cards, it is very difficult to get access to the subsidized food grains. Many of the people will face a difficulty because they have been omitted, right? Because of various issues, they do not have the ration card and they will not be able to get access to food grains or various schemes of Government of India. So this is the first article. Now, is this article relevant for civil services? How will you understand it? Please have a look at the question, this one as well as this one. This question was asked in the civil services UPSC examination, mains examination in the year 2021. The question reads, what are the salient features of the National Food Security Act of 2013? How has the Food Security Bill helped in eliminating hunger and malnutrition in India? This question was asked for 15 marks, right? And you are supposed to write an answer in 250 words. Now, I've given an MCQ also based on the discussion that we have had so far. There is no provision in the NFSA to revise the issue prices. What do you mean by issue prices? Right now, the issue prices under NFSA is 0 rupees. Earlier, there was a scheme called as Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, which was launched by the government during pandemic. Under PMGKAY, government used to provide free food grains. Now that has been subsumed, and under NFSA itself, we are giving free food grains, that is at 0 rupees. But before that, under NFSA, please remember, rice was issued at 3 rupees per kg, wheat was issued at 2 rupees per kg, and coarse grains was issued at 1 rupees per kg. And under NFSA, please remember, there is a provision which states that after 3 years, since the launch of the scheme, after 3 years, you are allowed to revise the prices. You are allowed to revise the prices after 3 years. So first statement, wrong. The states individually will decide their quotas under NFSA. Absolutely no. States will not decide their quotas. If a state is deciding the quota, then obviously it will have 100% of their population under the coverage of NFSA. So states will not decide the quota. Planning Commission, in essence, the center has allocated quota to all the states under NFSA. Second statement is also wrong. Right option for the question will be option D, neither 1 nor 2. Let me go to the next article. Finance Ministry has notified 90 rupee coin to commemorate 90 years of Reserve Bank of India. Now, every week there will be one or the other article associated with Reserve Bank of India, and RBI as such for civil services preliminary examination is very, very important. Now, what is the article all about? Understand the concept behind it. Reserve Bank of India has been established with the passage of RBI Act of 1934. So, Government of India, then Government of India before independence. So basically they passed RBI Act of 1934, And with passage of this RBI Act, from the 1st April 1935, RBI started operations. RBI started commencement of the operations. Now, before I go forward, what do you think? RBI to begin with, was it owned by Government of India? Do let me know the answer to this question in the comment section. To begin with, from the starting point itself, was RBI owned by Government of India? If no, then when do you think, in which year do you think RBI has been nationalized? What is the answer? Give the comments. Now, come back to the point here, come back to the discussion. So, 1934 it has been established and we are in 2024 now. So, Finance Ministry to commemorate 90 years of Reserve Bank of India has ordered minting of 90 rupee coin, minting of coin with denomination 90 rupees. Now, whenever you talk about coins, please understand this. Whenever there is a discussion around currencies, currencies can be in the form of coins, can be in the form of the paper currencies, that is notes. The notes are printed by Reserve Bank of India, of course, except 1 rupee note, and coins are minted by Government of India. So, whenever you talk about coins here, whenever you talk about coins, the coins can be commemorative coins, and within that only please understand, I'll use a technical term now, legal tender. There is a term called as a legal tender. What do you mean by legal tender? Legal tender basically means whenever you owe a debt, whenever you have to make a payment of money, this money shall be accepted in the form of payment. Very simple. If I purchase something from you, I'll have to make a payment. So, I'll have to use this money and you will have to accept this money. That is called as legal tender. Currency notes are legal tender. Currency coins are legal tender. Now, whenever you talk about coins here, there are certain coins which are called as commemorative coins. Commemorative coins. Now, whenever you use the term commemorative coins, logic is simple. These are the coins which are minted and issued so as to represent a historical event or so as to represent certain, right, let's say past outcome. You want to represent something, that is the reason these are called as commemorative. You want to celebrate something, commemorative coins. And within commemorative coins, these commemorative coins can be, right, circulatory. You can use it for circulation. And there are also certain coins which you cannot circulate. These are simply used as souvenir. These are simply used for, right, collection purposes, souvenir purposes. For example, sir, is there any commemorative coin which can be used as a simply souvenir, right? Cannot be used for circulation. Cannot be in the sense these are not accepted in the market because the value is much, much higher. The intrinsic value is much, much higher. I'll just give you a simple example. Last year, Government of India, right, basically Finance Ministry has launched this coin of value 75 rupees. Value 75 rupees. The weight of the coin was somewhere around 30 plus grams. But more importantly, please look at how much of these, right, how much of this coin out of let's say 30 plus grams, how much is silver? 50% of that is silver. Copper is 40%, nickel is 5%, zinc is 5%. So now tell me, don't you think because of multiple components which are used to manufacture this coin, although the denomination is 75 rupees, the value of the coin will be much, much higher. So these kind of coins are not used for circulation purposes. These are not used for circulation. These are simply for collection purposes. These are called as souvenirs. Souvenirs. And another example is the 90 rupee coin now. 90 rupee coin to commemorate 90 years of Reserve Bank of India. So this is the design of the coin, right? Reserve Bank of India, all the other details will also be given on the other side of the coin. So Finance Ministry has announced that to commemorate 90 years of RBI will also be minting and, right, issuing these particular coins. Now, before I go forward, where do you think the coins are minted in India? Think of it. Where do you think the coins are minted? There are different presses in India which will mint coins as well as print currency notes in India. For example, there is a printing press, security printing press in Mysore. There is one more in Salbani. Right, so there are other presses which are involved in the printing of currency notes. But do let me know in the comment section where are the minting presses located in India? That can be a potential question in the preliminary examination of this year. In fact, can there be a question even on printing presses in India? Of course, yes. Why? Last year, there was a discussion regarding 2000 rupee currency note. Reserve Bank of India has told the public to deposit back 2000 rupee currency note. So, there can be a question on the printing presses of currency notes as well as a minting of coins where it is done. Be very, very careful. Now, related to this, is there a question which has been asked by UPSC? Is it relevant for UPSC? Please have a look at the question here. This question was asked in the prelims 2018. Let's solve it. Which one of the following statements correctly describes the meaning of legal tender money? Which of the following correctly describes the term legal tender money? The money which is tendered in courts of law to defray the fees of legal cases, the money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of the claims. Of course, this is the right statement. Whenever you have to make a payment, you owe a debt, you will have to make the payment. In such cases, legal tender, right? This kind of a money, the issuer of the loan or the person to whom we owe the debt has to compulsory accept it. The bank money in the form of checks, drafts, bills of exchange, bank money, there itself they are using the term bank money. Okay. The metallic money in the circulation in a country, right? Please understand, metallic money, or let's say the coins, are part of money in circulation. Okay. These are part of the money which is accepted in the market. But the right option will be option B, the money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept. Okay, now let me go to the third article. Interest subsidy for exporters to be capped in Q1 of financial year 25. This appeared in Hindu newspaper on 22nd of March. What is the concept? What is the logic behind it? Listen to me very carefully. Government of India has taken various reforms, has implemented various measures in order to promote exports. But out of all of these reforms, there is one reform which was implemented by the government starting 2015 by the name of Interest Equalization Scheme. IES, Interest Equalization Scheme. What is the idea of an Interest Equalization Scheme? Under Interest Equalization Scheme, an exporter, imagine I am manufacturing a product and I am exporting a product. So, I will take a loan from a bank. I will simply take a loan from a bank. And when I take a loan from a bank, I will have to pay interest. Very simple. On the loan, I will have to pay interest. So, if the interest rate is paid, whatever interest rate I am paying, don't worry, that will add to cost of production. The market price will increase. Market price will start increasing because of interest rate. And this will start losing competitiveness in the international market. In order to provide relief to the manufacturer and exporter here, Government of India announced Interest Equalization Scheme. Under Interest Equalization Scheme, government says part of the interest you do not have to pay. For example, let's take a simple example so that you understand this. The rate of interest is 7%. Out of 7%, I will not pay full 7%, I will simply pay 4% rate of interest on the loan. Why? The bank will provide the loan at 4% rate of interest. Remaining 3%, government will provide it to bank. Government will simply give it to the bank here. This is basically the idea of an interest equalization scheme. And what is the benefit of it? If the rate of interest on the loan will fall down from 7% to 4%, don't you think I'll be able to manufacture at lower cost now? I'll be able to export, and these exports will be much more competitive. That is the whole idea. So it was initially introduced in 2015. The due date was 2020. Later it has been extended till 2024. And in the last year, the Union Cabinet again announced that this will be extended for one more quarter in the financial year 25. That is till the end of June 2024-2025 financial year. Now, apart from this, second very important point. This is point number 1. Second very important point associated with the scheme. Many of the exporters are complaining to the government of India that although government of India is ensuring that the rate of interest on the loans are lesser. By how much? If you look at the data that is given here, right, whatever data that is given here, for some of the manufacturers, please understand this, for some of the manufacturers, the rate of interest subvention will be 2% and for some it will be 3%. MSMEs, they will get 3% subvention and other manufacturers will get 2% subvention. But the concern that they have raised is, in the last 1.5 year or let's say 2 years, Reserve Bank of India has consistently been increasing interest rates in the market. That is, for example, in the last 2.5 years, Reserve Bank of India has increased repo rate. Repo rate has been increased by 2.5%. Now, what is the logic behind it? During pandemic, let's say hypothetically, the rate of interest was 7%. And imagine you are getting an interest subvention of 3%, which means the effective rate of interest that you would be paying is 4%. Correct? Effective would be 4%. Now, what RBI has done? RBI has increased repo rate. And when RBI increases repo rate, automatically the rate of interest on the loans given will also start increasing. Let's say from 7%, now the rate of interest on the loan given by the bank will become, let's say, 8.5%. Just hypothetical number, 8.5%. And even now you will get 3% subvention, which means your effective rate of interest will become 5.5%. So after pandemic, the Reserve Bank of India has kept on increasing repo rate, and many exporters, even those who are covered under RODTEP, they are also complaining, they are also raising a concern that with rise in the interest rates by Reserve Bank of India, whatever benefit is given by Government of India, that benefit has been taken away now. Many of the benefits or majority part of the benefit has been eaten away with rise in the interest rates. So that is the second very important point mentioned in the article here. And the third very important point, how many goods are covered under this scheme? Will all the goods which are exported be covered under the scheme? Absolutely no. 410. 410. The tariff lines have been identified and they will be provided with interest equalization scheme under the initiative of interest equalization scheme. Fourth very important point, I'll write it here only. Fourth very important point. Listen to me very carefully. It has been observed that Government of India will announce lot of schemes to manufacturers, exporters, etc. But lot of this benefit, lot of this subsidy that the government provides will get concentrated, will become concentrated within few of these manufacturers and exporters. Because they are able to leverage their benefit, they are able to get lot of subsidies which are allocated by the government under different schemes, just like interest equalization scheme. So last year, Government of India has introduced the concept of capping the amount of subsidy. What do you mean by capping the amount of subsidy? In one quarter, I as an exporter, I'll be provided with subsidies not beyond 2.5 crore. Not beyond 2.5 crore, which means for the full year, for the full financial year, the maximum subsidy that I can get, it will be capped to 10 crore. And what is the benefit of this? The benefit is simple. If the government will cap the amount of subsidy that I'll be getting, don't you think with the same amount of allocation, now government will be able to cover more and more manufacturers as well as exporters? So the coverage of beneficiaries will start increasing. That is the reason the concept of capping has been introduced. So these are the four very important points associated with interest equalization scheme. Be very careful. Next article, India makes case before World Bank for logistics ranking push. World Bank comes out with a report which is called as the Logistics Performance Index. I'll write it here only. Logistics Performance Index. Now please understand, Logistics Performance Index is a different report, and there is one more report in case of India, Leads Report, LEADS, Leads Report, which again talks about logistics only. Now this is the third question for this week now. Please do let me know which is the authority which publishes Leads Report in India. It also talks about logistics, but it is more focused on the state performance in India. Whereas the LPI, which is published by the World Bank, it focuses on performance of the member countries, performance of the countries. Now, what has happened? Why this is there in the newspaper discussion? Focus on this. World Bank publishes a logistics performance index. Government of India says that the way, the methodology that they are using, the data that they are collecting, Government of India is not happy with that. Why? Government of India says, India has implemented so many reforms in the past. For example, we have implemented GST that will help logistics sector. We have promoted various reforms, various policies in the logistics sector. So, despite implementing so many reforms, the way the data is collected, the methodology is used by the authority, they are not happy. And the idea is that in the logistics performance index, please understand, the data is collected on 6 parameters. The data is collected on the 6 parameters, but the ranking or the scoring is sentiment based. The scoring is sentiment based. Based on what I understand, I'll be giving a score to all the member countries under these 6 parameters. So, Government of India is never happy with this kind of a scoring methodology. And this issue has been raised by the government multiple times now with the World Bank. And if you look at what has been the performance of India, what has been the performance of India? In 2018 ranking, India's rank was 44th, and in 2023, the position has improved, performance has improved by 6 position. We have hit a 38th position. In fact, even with this position, India is never happy. The representatives of Government of India from different ministries have approached officials of the World Bank, and they have given lot of inputs, lot of data inputs regarding how the methodology can be changed, what has India done over a period of time to improve logistics sector, etc. And now we are expecting that the World Bank might restructure, look at all of the concerns and might restructure how they are basically calculating the rankings of member countries or other countries under the logistics performance index. Right, so this is more than sufficient. If you want to know which are the parameters, these are the parameters which are there. Right, simply by heart and look at the ranking of India over a period of time. That's more than sufficient. And as per 2023 report, Singapore is the best performing country under the LPI. Okay, now let me go to the next article. Center approves inclusion of wheat, rice under price stabilization fund. This article appeared in Mint newspaper on 21st March. Now, what is this idea of inclusion into the price stabilization fund? Let's start with the basics first. What is price stabilization fund? Government of India back in the year 2014 and 2015 introduced a new system called as price stabilization fund. And the overall idea was very simple. Whenever there is a harvesting season, the cultivation will be very high, supply to the market will be very high, prices will crash. And after a certain number of months, supply will become lesser, prices will start increasing. So at one or the other point of time, customers will suffer, farmers will suffer, etc. In order to stabilize the market prices, I repeat, in order to stabilize the market prices, from 2014 and 2015, government launched a fund by the name of Price Stabilization Fund, PSF, Price Stabilization Fund. Under the Price Stabilization Fund, logic was simple. We covered pulses, we covered potato, we covered onion so far. So the logic behind that was, whenever the prices or whenever the supply will start increasing, whenever the supply will be very high, the prices will start crashing. So the funds, the money that is there in the PSF will be taken by various agencies of the government, and they will start procuring, these commodities from the market and store it as buffer. Simply store it as buffer. And after a certain time period, when the supply will come down, prices will start increasing. Now these buffers will be introduced in the market, supplied to the market to stabilize the prices. To stabilize the prices. This is basically how the price stabilization fund has been utilized by government agencies. Point number 2, in recent times, especially in the last 1 year, there has been a rise in the market prices or the retail prices of wheat. There has been, especially in case of the second one, that is rice, the price of these commodities, agriculture commodities, especially for rice, has increased by a double-digit number in the last 1 year. And there is, impending elections in India. So Government of India, in order to keep the prices under control, to check the prices, to ensure that the prices will not affect the common man, government last year as well as very recently has included wheat as well as rice under price stabilization fund. Now how this is going to be impacted, how the effect is going to take place? Food Corporation of India will procure them, will procure these commodities through various other agencies such as NCCF, NAFED, etc. These will be sold to the retail consumers. These will be sold to the retail consumers, and the Government of India stated for every kg that you purchase, that is FCI will purchase and give it to these agencies, the central government has decided certain amount of subsidy that will be released from price stabilization fund. So this is basically how Government of India is using a tool such as price stabilization fund to ensure that supply of the commodities will be stabilized, market prices of the commodities will also be stabilized. Done? So this is one more very important article. Questions can be asked regarding this in the prelims. Can you use this in the mains examination? Of course, yes. For example, what if UPSC will give a descriptive question? Descriptive question. Discuss the recent reforms undertaken by the government to control food inflation. Not even overall inflation, food inflation. Because if you are reading newspaper, you will realize that even Reserve Bank of India, very recently, it has come out with a report. Right? Under this report, even the Reserve Bank of India has agreed to the fact that food inflation is not stable in India, and that has been dragging up the overall inflation. Headline inflation is being dragged up because of the food inflation itself. So what if UPSC based on that will ask you, what are the contributors of food inflation in India and what reforms have been undertaken by the government to control food inflation? You can write this as one of the measures. You can write this as one of the measures for that. Okay. Now, next article. Bank of Japan ends era of negative rates with a few clues on the future hikes. What is this idea of negative interest rate regime? Please understand this very carefully. After 2008, right, the year 2008 is very important. Reason being, there was a global financial crisis. Now, because of global financial crisis, there was one concern. The concern was that people may start saving lot of money rather than spending money. Rather than spending money, they will reduce the demand in the market. The overall demand will come down, and this might lead to deflation. This might actually lead to deflation. And if there's a deflation, deflation is exactly opposite to inflation. If there's a deflation, further production will go down, because if in the market demand is lesser, I as a manufacturer will not produce more. I will also reduce my production. If I reduce my production, obviously the unemployment will start increasing. That will further reduce the demand. Again the production will come down. So can you see a spiral is getting created? A vicious circle will get created. In order to address this issue of the deflation that might have a bigger impact on the overall economy, various central bankers starting with the Swedish central banker, in the year 2009, they introduced the concept of negative interest rates. Negative interest rates. And this negative interest rate, although it was first introduced by Swedish bank or central bank, in later parts it was picked up by multiple central banks. For example, Japan picked it up from the year 2016. They picked up the idea of a negative interest rate, implemented it from 2016. Now, what is this idea of a negative interest rate? I'll take a very simple example here, then we can come back to the idea of a Bank of Japan. In case of India, RBI is the central bank, Reserve Bank of India, RBI is the central bank. Any other bank will keep a deposit with RBI, let's say under reverse repo rate or any other tool that is available. So the bank will keep a deposit with RBI. RBI will pay interest on it. Correct? RBI will pay interest on it. But what if I say, again underline the term, what if I say RBI will tell the bank, you keep a deposit with me, I will not pay interest, rather I will impose charges on it. I'll repeat my statement. What if RBI says, when the bank will keep deposit with RBI, RBI will not pay interest. Rather, RBI will penalize the bank. RBI will impose charges on these deposits. So, if this situation is followed, if this kind of approach is followed by Reserve Bank of India, can I simply say, rather than keeping deposits with RBI, rather than the banks keeping deposits with RBI, banks will give more and more loans. Correct? Banks will start giving more and more loans. Interest rates in the market will fall down. People will not have incentive to save money and keep in the form of deposit because interest rates are very lesser. They'll start spending more. People will, or companies will start taking more of loans, etc., etc. That will promote recovery of demand in the market. It will promote demand recovery. And if the demand recovers, if the demand starts increasing, automatically production will start increasing. It will promote growth also, GDP will increase, manufacturing will increase, etc., etc. This was basically the idea of interest rate, negative interest rate. So when RBI, again I am saying RBI doesn't follow it. Imagine if RBI will charge money on the interest, will charge money on the deposits kept by the banks in India, that is called as negative interest rates. Rather than paying interest, RBI will collect interest on the deposits that RBI only has received from the banks. This is called as a negative interest rate policy. Now, what did Bank of Japan do? Starting 2016, they introduced the same model. Starting from 2016, they introduced the same model, right? And the negative interest rate was 0.1, minus 0.1, wherein if a bank, any other bank, it will basically keep a deposit, they will be charged money. They will not be paid interest, they will be charged money. And that is the reason it was seen that many of the banks in Japan, rather than keeping deposits, rather than holding money, they started giving more and more loans to companies. They have issued lot of loans at lesser rate of interest. They issued lot of these loans to the companies at lesser rate of interest, which has promoted manufacturing, which has promoted, right, a sale of the goods and services, which has added to the GDP of the country of Japan. Right, so very recently the Bank of Japan has announced that they will be dismantling, they will be discontinuing the concept of negative interest rates. Reason being, the inflation target, I'll repeat, the inflation target for Bank of Japan is 2%. The inflation target for Bank of Japan is 2%. But in the last couple of years, inflation rate in Japan has crossed more than 3%. It has crossed more than 3%. Inflation rate is much higher than whatever is the inflation target. Point number one. Point number two, the average wage rise or average wage hikes which have been provided in the last 1 decade, they were very less. But in the last 1.5 years, the wage hikes have been much higher. In the last 1 year itself, the wage hikes have been more than 5%. So, average is around 2 to 3%, and now the wages have been hiked by 5%, which means obviously people are earning much higher than what they used to do earlier. Now, because of that, the demand fueled inflation, right, all of this is contributing to the demand pull inflation in the economy of Japan. That is the reason the Bank of Japan has announced that they will not have negative interest rates, rather they will shift to a positive interest rate policy wherein they will start providing interest rates of 0.1% on the deposits. This is expected to reduce money supply, increase interest rates on the loans and help Bank of Japan in pulling back or trying to control the inflation, drag it back to the target of 2%. So these are certain very important points regarding the concept of negative interest rate policy. Now the last article for this week, just an update here, nothing to discuss because the last week also we had a discussion regarding FAME 1 and FAME 2. Just an update now. What is the update? Under FAME 2, if you remember, I told you that Government of India will provide subsidies, incentives. Government will provide money to you so that you can reduce the market price of your vehicle and sell it at lower price. But more importantly, if you want to get the incentive like this, if you want to get the subsidy, you will have to meet certain conditions. What is the condition? 50% of the components that you use should be taken from Indian market. Now, various companies who have taken the subsidies, they have either not reached to 50% or they have given wrong data to Government of India saying that we have reached to 50%. And central government, that is the Ministry of Heavy Industries, which is the nodal agency. Ministry of Heavy Industries last year itself had sent this notice to many of these manufacturers either to prove that they have reached to 50% or else give back the subsidies. Now, there are various companies, 3 companies in fact, don't worry about the names of the companies. These 3 companies are under the crossfire now. Government of India, that is Ministry of Heavy Industries, is considering dragging them to the Delhi High Court now. That is an update. Okay, so they have not reached the 50% target. They have taken the subsidies. Now the Ministry of Heavy Industry says, right, I'll take you to Delhi High Court. And so this is basically an update regarding what we have been discussing for the last couple of weeks on FAME initiative. So this is the list of the articles that I wanted to discuss with you people for this week. If you like this initiative, please hit the like button. Provide your valuable comments in the section below. And if you yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it now. Thank you. Have a great day.